Hello and welcome to the Video Gamer UK podcast. My name is Matt Lees and I'm joined by Christopher Bratt.
Hello there.
Simon Miller.
Welcome.
And David Scammell.
Hello, my lovely internet
Doesn't
friends.
know the difference between The Little Mermaid and Aladdin.
The Little Mermaid is banned.
The Little
Mermaid is banned in China, I believe.
How could you possibly
Why?
ban...
Because I can't remember now.
Oh, I think I've heard
it's
this in
China or Korea or
Is this
somewhere,
because
I
it's
can't
like she's disrespecting the word of her father?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that
it's banned,
before.
yeah.
It's like she's not doing what her father tells her to, so it's damaging to kids.
Yeah.
And actually, on this
it's not
note,
the fact that she's half fish, then.
I'm going to jump this straight back to something to do with video games. And last
Nice.
night's Pants Man live stream with me
Yeah.
and Brat, during...
Became the Little Mermaid?
I didn't, but what I did was I managed to transition. I didn't do that. Probably joked about it. But no, I managed to transition from La Cucaracha to Under the Sea.
No, that wasn't
It was
good. That wasn't
seamless.
good.
He says it wasn't good.
It wasn't.
I think it was amazing.
We've got video proof.
Either way, you should definitely watch the video on
I'll
Twitch
watch it.
because
I didn't see that bit.
last night's one was very fun because I was playing a really scary bit of Demon's Souls and
Yeah.
I properly was losing my shit. He was just laughing at me the whole time and just being like, "Oh, come on, they're just
Brad
silly."
doesn't get it.
And I was scared.
Okay, no, I appreciate that those Cthulhu-like creatures were
I
really...
also taught Chris how to say the word Cthulhu.
Yeah.
I
How did
kept
you
calling
say it
him-
originally?
It's not a word that you say in
Sir
conversation
Thulu.
often.
You didn't call it Sir Thulu.
No, I said Cthulhu.
That's bad,
Well, how often do you say the word Cthulhu?
Well, I'm not the right person
You have to
ask
look it
that.
up in a book, I reckon, Chris. The proper pronunciation.
yeah, this all happened. I've had this.
Yeah, we
already,
had this a
thank
lot
you.
as well. And I made some friends and I murdered them. It was a really good stream. If you don't
Sounds
watch
good.
it, it's worth watching, even if you're not a big fan of that stuff, because mainly I just sing songs and
You do seamless
Chris,
transitions.
just Chris takes the mick out of me. Anyway, let's jump ahead. What have you boys been playing this week?
Who's starting? Shall I start?
Go for it.
I don't mean to. I kind of.
I just claim that starting position.
Just do it.
I don't like dead air. I thought it was going to be dead air. I got scared. I had to jump in there and get rid of that dead air. I have been playing. This is going to be interesting to discuss because I've been playing Beyond Two Souls.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Sony's exclusive David Cage game. And now, obviously, if you read the review on VideoGamer.com done by Stephen W. Burns, who is not here today, Stevie B. He gave it 4 out of 10, which obviously created some interesting debate.
It's one of the lowest scores out there, right?
Not
so.
really. There's some 5s as well, so it's not.
There's
There's
a
a couple of
3.
4s, there's a 3. So it scored all over the place. I've seen 4s till 10s.
Yeah, it was one of the most divisive ones
This
recently.
year's Deadly Premonition. Now, the thing is, I mean, somebody made a comment on the review and they said, I'm getting so confused with reviews because some people, obviously, some reviews a game and gives it a good score and Steve reviews other games give it a bad score. But that's just reviews. Like, you have to take each one with a pinch of salt, and we can't all review the same game because all we would do is review games. There would be no time for anything else. So it may surprise you. I don't think it's... I was a big Heavy Rain fan. I thought Heavy Rain... I know people think it had its problems and some people don't like it, but personally I thought it was... I was in the fan camp. So, you know, I liked elements of Fahrenheit as well. So I'm certainly not against David Cage.
Loved Fahrenheit.
But Beyond is his worst game. It just is. I am enjoying it on some level, but I don't like the way it jumps all around. And not because it, you know, people go, but Pulp Fiction did it. Well, yeah, but it's not Pulp Fiction. I don't understand why that's a comparison. It doesn't work. It makes the story feel all broken up, as of course it's going to. You never really get a sense of you're progressing anywhere, because you're not progressing anywhere, because you already see things that have already happened, then you go back and you're like, well, that's not progression. That's like me looking into a diary almost.
Is it? I mean, I'm interested in this because, I mean, is it like that it jumps around almost randomly, or does it do that thing of... Because actually, one of my favourite authors, if not my favourite, is Margaret Atwood, and she has this sort of style in her books where she starts off with a character in the kind of almost in the future of being like, here's where somebody's at, and you're like, what the hell's going on? And then it kind of jumps right back to like 50 years ago or whatever, and then gradually it jumps between telling you about what's happening right now and then gradually working the way through the history until you reach the point, and usually in the books it's like you reach the point of working out what went wrong, what happened, like how did this turn to this? Does it do that, or is it just a bit more like...
I think it tries to do that, but it just feels really messy. It just feels like he sat down and thought, I don't know how many chapters there are in the game, so this is a made-up number. Here's 30 things I would like to tell, and I'm just going to insert them into... I mean, because that's the biggest problem with it, is that for as stupid as it is, and it is stupid, it's not stupid, but it is somewhat ridiculous. I don't mind the whole, pick up a cup, flick the right stick. I don't mind it. I find it quite...
I don't have a problem with that stuff either.
I find it quite nice when it's done right. And there's one scene where you're homeless, and that's when it gets it right in David Cage, remember?
Yeah, I think that's one of the highlights
and
of
there's
it.
choices, and there's a real consequence to what you're doing. But that's the only scene where you feel like that's the case. The rest all just feels like... Again, I don't even have a problem if it was just like an interactive movie. I wouldn't have a problem with that if I like the story.
You know what? I've heard a few complaints against that kind of style of game as well. But you know what? The Walking Dead is the same camp there, and that was one of the best games.
Well, this is the thing, and I got a bit
recently.
I got a bit of stick on Twitter the other week because I basically said, "Oh, it looks like crap," and everyone was like, "You haven't played it." I'm like, "Yeah," but the thing about the David Cage games is I've not really played any of them, right? But I know how they work. Somebody's explained to me, and I've seen them played, and I've seen bits of it, and I understand the process of how you play the game, and I understand that it's mainly a narrative experience. And you know what? Like, I am totally not against that. I love games like that. The Walking Dead is, I think,
they're my favourite games now. I mean, they really
However,
are.
there's something about, and I don't know what it is, there's something about the direction or the delivery of the way the characters interact in those games that just watching bits of it for minutes, I know I'm not going to be able to get over that. Like, it feels weirdly jilted and stunted. It's like this really uncanny valley stuff.
I think more so in Beyond. That is, I mean, the biggest problem I have with Beyond is the reason I loved Heavy Rain so much is I like the detective stories. Who doesn't? I think most people like a good detective story. But also, it really, really progressed. When you were jumping around the characters, there was so much sort of foreshadowing and foreboding. So you thought, oh, well, that's just happened. So how does that affect Jaden?
Yeah.
And you're like, where is this all going to end? And there was a constant carrot being held in front of you. Like, I've got to know where this goes.
I mean, Heavy Rain's still on my list to play for that reason. Just
I mean, it has problems, don't get me wrong.
Oh, no, yeah.
I'm happy. I was genuine. I loved it so much. I was happy to go, you know what? Don't need to worry
there's
about
more
these
stuff
problems.
going on there. That's the thing. With Heavy Rain, it's like, I know that I don't think the delivery's good. I really think David Cage is a bad writer or a bad director. I don't know which. I don't know enough about.
Go on forever, yeah.
It's just, it's the way the characters interact just doesn't feel human to me. I can't relate to it as a human. But then, like with Heavy Rain, you got the other stuff. The fact that if your characters die, the story continues, so you're going to get a different story.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Depending
really
on what you do, and that is like that's awesome. And I'll play the game for that reason. But with Beyond, it's more linear, right?
Oh, I mean, it is linear. It's not obviously it jumps around, but it is at the same time, and that's the problem. I never thought what's going to happen. I mean, in case you really don't know, obviously you play. I've forgotten her stupid name.
Jodie Holmes,
psychic lady.
What's her name in real life?
Ellen Page.
Ellen Page. Thank you. You play Ellen Page, who's playing Jodie Holmes, who has a spiritual ghost called Aiden, and the basic thing is how her life is living with this. And every now and then you control Jodie.
It's like a sitcom.
And every now and then you control Aiden. But it's just I never felt like, well, what's going to happen to her and Aiden, or what's going to happen to the spiritual world? Obviously, what's going to happen, or what's going to happen to Willem Dafoe? By the way, who is just Willem Dafoe? That's the only problem with casting Willem Dafoe. You can only see Willem Dafoe.
It's like Jeff Goldberger.
It's just like
Goldblum.
Yeah.
Bloom.
It's just some people you see, and it's like I can't take this as any other. You are just Willem Dafoe because you were an interesting looking man at the best of times. It's like if you cast Christopher Walken. I'm only seeing Christopher Walken, but that's the problem. It's just the entire time I'm playing it, I'm thinking, where are we building to? What's the end game here? What's the story? Why am I playing this? It's almost like I'm reading somebody's diary.
Yeah.
Which is today I did this.
That's the thing, and you know what? Like, it's funny because I think I found the reaction to all this stuff very interesting because it seemed like a lot of the time, like I'll be very flippant about loads of games and I'll go, "This looks like shit," and everyone goes, "Yeah, it does." But for some reason, with Beyond, it really touched a nerve, and a lot of people went, "You haven't played it," and it's like,
I think there are a lot of David Cage apologists, aren't there? Really?
I think there are, and that's the thing. Is interesting because it's like I think a lot of people felt like I was attacking the premise of the game of having a narrative based thing where you have a very limited interaction. It's like, no, I love that stuff. Like To the Moon, I think is one of the best games I've played in recent years, and that's barely a game. It has this tiny bit where you do like matching up tiles every now and then, and it's like so easy, and you don't have to be good at it. But it's almost like they just sort of put it in because they thought if we don't put this in To the Moon, there's going to be no game. But it's literally just going to be a story. But I love it.
I would like more game in Beyond because the thing with Heavy Rain is, slight spoiler here, but not really, so I won't give you the context of it. There's a bit in Heavy Rain. There's lots of bits in Heavy Rain, but the one that stands out for me massively is when you're basically in what I would call an obstacle course, a very violent, dangerous obstacle course, and you have to make your way through that. And the reason you have to do it is very poignant and there's a lot of pressure on you, so you're feeling like, oh man, I've got to get this done. Beyond doesn't really do that ever. Like, Beyond is much more in the camp of, follow these people through their story while you watch it. And I wouldn't really mind that. But again, there's not much story there.
Yeah.
It's like these scenes almost exist independently to one another. And there is something, I mean, I do enjoy it on some level. Like when the scene is really good, e.g. homeless scene, and I'm interacting in that way. And,
is there not any game in the sense that, because obviously you can possess certain other like NPCs,
but it just feels really like
that. When I saw at E3, they made out that you'd have these options and it depended on who you chose to take.
Definitely not.
They sort of said there was a sense of almost like a Hitman type thing where you can approach different scenarios in different ways depending on who you possess.
It
doesn't. You just got to figure out which one to kill first, pretty much.
Yeah, your choice is which one you choose first, not how
the demo I played was the part in Somalia, right?
Yeah.
And that just felt very scripted. That seems to be one of the early combat situations, and it was very, very obvious what the game wanted me to do, and I was just kind of pressing buttons to go along with it.
Because I don't hate it as much as Steve hated it, and I will play it through to its conclusion, and I still enjoy the way David Cage approaches the game. But this is his weakest effort because it just feels too holding you too handhelding. You know, too handhelding. That's not a term, but I'm going to pattern that now. And it just feels like
you're being strapped into a roller coaster, but you're aware of it,
and that would be fine if the story was better.
Well, this is the
story's
thing,
not
and
good.
actually, I found one of the hardest games I've ever had to review was the Walking Dead series, and it was difficult to review because I was reviewing it every month, which is like you're reviewing each episode, and you have to kind of be like, how does it fit in the context of the big thing? But also, I didn't have very big word counts, and generally, like when you're trying to review something like that. And you don't have the luxury of a video to go alongside it or anything like that we all have now. How do you explain these things? And how do you try and explain why it's good? And with Walking Dead, it's weird. It's like you sort of say, right, it's this game where you're strapped into a roller coaster, right? And none of the decisions you make really have any impact on the game. Yeah. And there's very little input. But it's the best thing you'll play. Yeah. And people go, what?
The whole thing is that it makes you feel like those decisions are the most important thing.
Yeah, that's it.
They're not in the grand context of it,
at all. But
when you're playing it, it feels...
It's an illusion. It's a beautiful illusion. And what annoys me, and I do have a kind of a bit of a grudge against... I don't have a grudge against David Cage, but I dislike the idea that David Cage is a visionary. Because... every interview I've read with him, the way he talks about the future of games, he's obsessed with games becoming like films. And I already think that there are games that are showing that that's just not the way it's going to be. And games can borrow from films, but it's a much more interesting medium. And I think the way his future for it does him a disservice. And also, I really dislike the fact that he's always talking about how games have this untapped narrative potential and games are so basic and we have such... and talks about his vision for the way games should deal with narrative, right? And yet every time he does it, he kind of fails to do it properly, where there are other games. He still talks about it as if it's something that's not happening, and it is. And I don't know if it's just ignorance or like purposefully blinkering himself, but he still talks about what he's trying to achieve in narrative in games as if it's something that people aren't already doing.
I still think he has the potential. I do think Beyond is a misstep. Like I really do, but I still think he has the potential to do it based off Heavy Rain.
No, absolutely, and I'm not saying he can't do it.
Yeah, of course. But the first half of Fahrenheit, this is the problem: is that Fahrenheit is the perfect summary up for these two following games, because the first half of Fahrenheit is brilliant and very Heavy Rain-esque. The latter half of Fahrenheit is very Beyond. So it's almost like this. Yeah. It's almost like he's gone to the past and goes, well, this time I'm going to take this half. And he has now take the other half. But I think when he grounds himself in reality, and don't get me wrong, Heavy Rain still, toys with reality a bit. But when he grounds himself in reality, he's much better at telling story than when he goes into these supernatural, spooky worlds, because it falls apart and becomes a little bit silly.
As a creative, he just strikes me as being somebody who's far too blinkered and far too obsessed with his own work, in the fact that I think that so many advances have been made in terms of narrative, in terms of how games can deal with narrative in the past couple of years. And it feels like with Beyond, he's just completely carried on doing what he thinks he wants to do. He doesn't seem like somebody who's really looking enough at other people's work and learning from it.
But a lot of people like Beyond, and they don't get me wrong.
Yeah, sure.
I don't say that, but my point was just being like, don't get me wrong, if you are enjoying it in the same way you've enjoyed his past games, and I think that's fine. I was excited about Beyond. That's the thing, and it wasn't the game I thought it was going to be. And I think where he does next needs to be. If he did another Beyond, I'd feel a little bit.
I just hope he takes some of the, because I think the problem is because so much of it is personally leveled at him. And I mean, I personally kind of tuck my finger at him as a creative because I think he's not maybe got his heart in the right place always. But I think he does need to take some of the criticisms about his game seriously. I think maybe he gets to people, he just shrugs it off as, people think I'm a dick. When actually it's like there are fair criticisms.
There are a few developers that it reminds me of the situation that Molyneux often finds himself in. A lot of the complaints
against the people that put themselves
exactly,
out there.
and
it's always going to happen.
That's the reason. Beyond.
But actually,
they thrive on that as well. I mean, that's a big part of their marketing push, really, isn't it? It's like David Cage's next vision for a game. It's interesting to see.
There's only a handful of video game guys that actually sort of are well known, for lack of a better term, and because they put themselves out there, therefore their games will get publicly.
And I should say also, it is difficult when these games have these figures to really know, because often if you get into the habit of thinking that these games are completely controlled by one person, it's a really dangerous habit, because often they're not. It's massive teams of people, and
of course.
It's not one singular person to blame. However, it's always interesting to know what's really going on behind the scenes, because I genuinely get the impression that Molyneux's sense of power at Lionhead was probably too much as it should have been for one person. And I wonder if it's the same with Cage. It might not be. It might be that Cage's team at Quantic, like, it might be that all of the stuff that's a bit crap is the fault of some other creative guy who's always like, no, we have to do it like this. I don't know. But, you know, it's interesting. But it's easy to blame an individual for a game that's made by 500 people.
Exactly.
Or whatever, you know?
But I still play it through to the end. I still like it on some level. It's just not the game I hoped it would be.
I see how I'm interested to see how you get on, because I mean, I know I've not played it, but I know the synopsis and I've heard that what happens at the end is just
I've seen some bits at the end, and it just seems madness. But you know, I'll finish this game, and I think I think I'm somewhere in the middle of the review scores. If you know, in terms of, you know, people absolutely love it, people absolutely hate. I think it's okay. But it's disappointing from what I hoped it would be.
Yeah,
but never mind. I'll move on.
There were plenty more games in the sea.
Exactly, my man.
I imagine we're going to move on to... we talked about Telltale in comparison to...
of course. We might
Obviously,
as well.
The Wolf Among Us has come out this week. You're the only one that's played it. I'm about to play it. I was hoping to last night, but I missed it.
All right.
But I just wanted to say before you jump in, like the most interesting thing about that game is, like, I didn't really know much about Fables, which is the comic series it's based on, and I just kept glancing over to your PC whilst you were playing it, and it'd be like this big burly man with some beautiful woman, and then it seemed like you were kind of you were going through the story, and it just looked like a kind of a little bit. I was like, how does this fit into a big fantasy world? Pretty much, because they're normal human characters when you first see them. And then I kept glancing back and forth. I finally looked over, and there was a pig smoking a cigarette. I was like, what? How did we get there? What just happened in this game?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's I won't talk about it too much because I don't want to give too much away. But it's based on the Fables series of comics, as you say, and the idea is that it's all these fairy tale characters lived in fairy tale land, and they all had to leave quickly for some reason, and now they all live in New York, but they have to basically keep casting these spells called glamours, which is to basically make yourself look like humans. So it's fairy tale characters living in New York, trying to live out lives, but they live for like hundreds of years. So they're still like almost immortal. But yeah, the fact that they do look like characters, like sometimes if they haven't cast the spell, and one of the characters is a pig, and your main character is called Bigby.
Yeah, and that pig is from the Big Bad Wolf, and you are the Big Bad Wolf.
You're the Big Bad Wolf.
It's those fairy tale characters. They're very
right,
but it's kind of a weird mashup, because you're the Big Bad Wolf, which means this is the only bit I'll spoil really, because I'll explain why in a minute. But there's a pig who's living in your flat. And the reason the pig is living in your flat is because you blew his house down.
Yeah.
You huffed and puffed and you blew his house down.
Does sound amazing.
And so now he's like, he hasn't got anywhere to live, and you kind of like, he's a real dick about it, because he's like, he wants some of your whiskey, and he's like, well, you know, a sip of that drink sure would help me with all this emotional turmoil from when you blew my house down. And it's clear that he's been like living off this for about 100 years of being like, oh, well, you did blow my house down.
Isn't his name
and eat
Colin
my brothers
as well?
He's called Colin.
Colin the pig. Brilliant.
But yeah, it's really nice because it's like a weird mashup in the fact that you're the Big Bad Wolf from that story, but then there's also you're the Big Bad Wolf from the Red Riding Hood story as well. So it's like there's crossover, and it's just an interesting idea, because the idea is that they've all had these past lives, but they've moved on and they've been in New York for a long time. And it's just weird because it's got this thing of like, you know, the Big Bad Wolf used to be the bad guy, but now he's kind of the good guy.
Yeah.
And some of the characters who are heroes in the comics have since kind of fallen from grace after like living off the fame and being bought drinks. They've now like grown bitter and dark because they've stopped being loved, and they've turned into like nastier characters.
Right.
But what I'll say about this is it's interesting because I reviewed it for the site. If you want to read my review, it's a nice short, sharp thing, and there's a video without any spoilers, so you can have a look at it, and have a look at it because the art style in this game is bloody lovely.
Yeah, it's the same kind of visual style as Walking Dead, but the colour
so much
is
nicer.
Incredible.
And also it's just sharper. Like the Walking Dead was a really fuzzy game. This game is like stylish as fuck.
Yeah.
It's just so cool. But it's got a different pacing. It's slower. It's more like film noir. I'll explain. Yeah, read a review if you want to know. But basically, what I'll say is, I'd be careful reading too many reviews, because I think a lot of the people who reviewed it alongside me, like my peers and stuff, are all big fans of the comics, and they just proceeded to kind of go, "Oh, it's great seeing this character doing this. It's great seeing this." And it's
tells
like
you a bit too much.
It tells you way too much. I mean, I've never heard of the comics, and admittedly, I think because of that, it took me longer to get into The Wolf Among Us, because of that, because there's a lot of exposition and meeting the characters. But what kept me going was the surprise, and the fact that it kept introducing these weird new characters. And I was like, no way, it's that guy from that comic, or that guy from that fairy tale.
That's what I'm looking forward to, and not knowing Fables either. I just, the presentation of the characters that we know so well, like Little Red Riding Hood, I can't wait to see like their vision of each one. I love dark fairy tale stuff. I think
it's dark fairy tale,
a fun way to tell a story.
And it's basically it's a noir detective story. set in like a weird fairy tale New York. It's really cool. I'd definitely check it out. But as I say, I think a lot of people are like, oh, I haven't read the comics. Should I read the comics first? I'd just say no. I reckon lots of people who read the comics will go, of course you should read the comics. You need to read the comics because they're amazing. And it's like, yeah, but I recommend going in blind because it's so refreshing. It's like to play a game like that, especially when so many games are just like, here's the dragons and orcs, or here's the guns and army tanks. To just be thrust into a world that's so weird and different that you don't know anything about. Super cool.
How are they handling the player choice kind of stuff? Because obviously Walking Dead, those decisions often meant life or death for certain characters.
Well, I think that's going to be interesting, actually, because I didn't really mention this in the review because obviously I wasn't sure about it and I don't want to get bitten again. But it seems like the decisions you make in the first episode don't seem as major most of the time. And I wonder if partially that's because it is aware that a lot of people won't know the characters, so it doesn't want you to make it doesn't want you to make important decisions about it
just yet
before you know, before you have a feeling about it. So for the first half of it, my decisions were a bit like, I don't really care about this that much, whatever. But then towards the end, it got its kind of fangs into me and I was a bit more like invested. But it seems what it does is quite clever in the fact that because you're like doing a detective thing, there's a bit where you need to go and talk to this guy, but then also you've got a tip off of like somebody's in trouble over here and you've got to choose where you're going to go. And you end up going to both places, but there's like an issue of time. Right. So I get the impression that there's this one bit where I went to go somewhere and then I went to the other place instead. And when I got there, like something had happened. When I finally got there, something had already happened and, it was too late to do anything about it. But I got the impression that if I'd gone there earlier, it could have panned out really differently. And one of the interesting things it says when you boot up the game and you start playing the game is it says, this is The Wolf Among Us, the decisions you make and the way you talk to characters in the game will affect the way the story plays out. Yeah. And I can't remember if it said that in The Walking Dead.
I think it did say that in The Walking Dead, didn't it?
But I wonder if maybe they'd actually doing it a bit more properly this time. I don't know, because in The Walking Dead, spoiler, the decisions you make don't really actually impact anything. But that doesn't matter because it's how you feel about it that matters.
Yeah.
But in this, I get the impression that it might actually... Because it felt like there was a lot of side stuff I did that I didn't have to do. And I wonder how that will affect things. I don't know.
They have been working on The Wolf Among Us for quite a long time. I know it was pushed back because of The Walking Dead and how crazy that went. So I wonder, just because with The Walking Dead, everyone would have liked to see them just take it that step further. But in terms of the amount of time that would have taken in development to create stories that go in different directions properly.
Well, I mean, there's some interesting bits. Like there's one bit where there's a guy who's clearly not telling you the truth about something. And you have the opportunity. Basically, what I did then was I spent a long time looking around the flat, looking for clues. And it took me about like 5 minutes of like putting the pieces together until I had all the clues and basically said, look, man, you're lying because of this. And it took a while, but the whole time there was an option to just threaten him. And I don't know what that would have done, but I get the impression that if I wanted to, I could have done that.
Yeah.
Because it seems like the idea is you're the big bad wolf and it's kind of like you're never really a good guy. It's not like good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
But I always get the impression that you can be a fair cop if you want. But if you want, you can just like beat people up.
Kick some ass.
And it's cool that you're a wolf because there's an awesome bit within the first episode. That was the point at which I finally kind of kicked in and thought, yeah, this is cool.
Yeah.
Where you kind of get some trouble for some guys and you're in a bad way and you're getting beaten up a bit. And then you actually, like, towards the end of the episode, you actually, he shows you what he looks like when he turns into a bit of a wolf. And it's like, he suddenly turns incredibly badass. And it's that classic video game thing of like, you don't have to have the power all the time. But just knowing your character has that brimming power just beneath the surface just makes you feel a little bit cool, a little bit dangerous.
Yeah. That's weird. You never felt powerful in The Walking Dead. It's going to be interesting to see how that
It's very different. Tonally, it's very different. And I'd say the only complaint about it and why I didn't give it a 9, I think I gave it an 8 in the review, is because it's good and I like it and the cliffhanger is brill. And by the cliffhanger, it had done its job as a pilot in that I'm playing the rest of the series.
Yeah, I've got to play the rest of it.
But unlike The Walking Dead, which was just immediate, it felt like to me like it's a nice setup for the rest of the thing, but there's no assurance that it's going to like... I think it will. My gut is telling me this series is going to be really, really good. But at the moment, it's like... it's like trying to review a TV series after you've seen the pilot. The pilot's really amazing. I mean, everyone remembers Lost, right?
Yeah.
I never watched Lost.
The pilot was amazing. And then after that, it was just shit for about 4 years.
Yeah.
But hey.
Is it 5 episodes again?
5 episodes.
Man, they're sticking to that, aren't they?
Still no...
Rigid.
It's clever. I think it's a smart way of doing it. But you should try it. It's only like $5 to play it.
I mean, after the travesty that was Jurassic Park, which will never be forgotten, I would advise everyone to play Jurassic Park if you'd like to see how far Telltale has come.
Yeah.
But The Walking Dead has won me. I'll play anything they do now.
Yeah.
Other than Jurassic Park me again, we're fine.
They've learned from their mistakes here. They've done some simple things like you can invert the controller up and down because I used to play on a pad on 360. You can hold down
yeah.
the right trigger to make your character run slightly faster, so if you want to get around more quickly. Some things like
small
that.
things, isn't it?
Small things like that make a big difference. And also, like, it seems like, I mean, one of the things I kept putting in every bloody review in the hope that someone at Telltale read it is like, just stop putting the puzzles. Because in The Walking Dead, stop putting the puzzles in.
Oh, right. So
because in The Walking Dead, every episode had a puzzle, and it felt like a cursory throwback to point and clicks of being like, we've got to have a puzzle.
Am I the only one that struggled in the first episode
in all of
turning the TVs off or something? Or turning the TVs on in the store opposite in the streets?
I struggled. Whenever it wanted me to do a puzzle, I got stuck.
like that puzzle.
That puzzle.
Just me, I'm that guy.
No,
I like that puzzle.
you probably got it straight away. I didn't. I
played a lot of point and click games.
Yeah,
But you know the bit with the train where you had to detach the train? And there were all the different tools and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It took me for like
I
half
enjoyed
an
that
hour.
too.
Oh,
Sorry,
I don't know.
I like the puzzles.
I love the
Yeah, but
pacing, but it broke up the pacing way too much.
It's not the stuff you talk about with The Walking Dead, is it? No one starts there raving about The Walking Dead with, oh, those puzzles were so fun. No, you don't. You talk about the decisions and the stories.
But yeah, they got rid of the puzzles, and they have got a basic inventory system stuff.
Okay.
It's much different. It's much more like, I mean, this is the thing, is I don't know how it's going to pan out, because it felt more like considered, more cinematic. There was more of it was just showing you some cool pans and have cool conversations and stuff. It felt a lot more like driven, less like controlled.
So a lot of little cutscenes of the big bad wolf, or however his nickname is, in that smoking. He just making him look cool whilst he was smoking. And I was like, yeah,
he's
it's
just smoking cigarettes.
Smoking is not cool, kids.
It's not.
Don't smoke
unless you're in a noir comic, and then it's badass.
If you're listening to this in a noir comic, you can smoke. Otherwise, no smoking.
If you are a 1930s noir character, puff away. Otherwise, don't do it.
Or Humphrey Bogart.
It's a terrible habit.
That's fine.
But yeah, no, it's great. You should check that out. And the other thing I've been playing this week, we've all been playing a bit of Hearthstone again. We actually...
I played some Hearthstone last night.
David,
did you really?
Did it, yeah.
As fuck.
You don't strike me as a Hearthstone player at all.
Well, you'd be wrong, because I am now.
Yeah.
Ultimate Hearthstone.
It took me a long time to understand what the hell was going on.
The thing is, you asked me, because I think you were watching the England game at the time, and you asked me, like, can I get away with just playing this whilst keeping an eye on?
But there was
the
no
football?
way I was not going to watch the football.
Yeah.
But as I was doing about 100 things at once,
and you can learn just from the text, but the dialogue in that tutorial is actually really, really good.
I hate it.
But I don't know. I'm a massive WoW fan. I was a massive.
Well, I'm
WoW
a
fan.
massive Warcraft fan, but I really dislike the way, because I love Warcraft 3, and I was one of those stupid pricks who took the story quite seriously. I was like, it's a great story. But I fucking love this. Great story. Oh, it's a tale of...
It is.
Honestly, the story for Warcraft 3 at the time was just
for
the
a
best
strategy
thing.
game.
The best thing.
So good.
I could not believe the twists and turns it took. It was wow. Anyway, but then I really hated the fact that World of Warcraft gradually kind of got more like flippant and stupid, and being like, fuck it, who gives a shit about everything?
Pandas.
And yeah, precisely.
Yeah, that was my out.
I mean, first of all, it was like all the gnomes, because there wasn't really many gnomes in Warcraft 3.
I think they were just kind of... They just occasionally popped up with some invention.
Yeah,
but
you had like gnome, like it was one of the units was like a gnome like jet thing, a helicopter, gyrocopter, and then World of Warcraft.
I think it happened because they made some of these like kind of smaller races something that you could play. They felt the need to get a real history for them and make the characters important, and some of them don't fit in. I agree.
Well, that's it. I just find the gnomes fucking irritating, and I hated the fact that when I started doing
the gnomes in Hearthstone?
Yeah, well, the guy who does the intro is like,
Mana Storm.
I was watching it. I had
Put a bunch of fucking cards on the table.
When that was happening, I had football commentary in my ears.
I wish I did, and I don't even like football. But yeah, I hate that. And then it was also a bit when, during one of the tutorials, it was like, oh, it's my Panda and Master. It's like, no, fucking hell. Like, the day that they decided to make
pandas anything but a bonus level,
they made them like canon, and it was like, fuck off. Like, because
I thought everyone loved pandas.
No, they don't. Like, they don't.
Right. Well, scratch that from the
fuck
record.
Those pandas, man.
Pandas don't even like pandas.
I was so certain they weren't going to go down that route.
That's true. They won't have sex
it's
with each
just
other, will they?
a horrible case of World of Warcraft becoming more about the franchise than the lore, right? Because before, Warcraft was a cool story, had some cool stuff, in the same way that StarCraft kind of is quite, but it's kind of got a bit... I still like StarCraft story and all that stuff. But they kind of just, because it was a franchise thing, they stopped thinking what is best for the story and the lore.
What sells the next expansion?
I'm thinking, how can we get more girls and stuff to play World of Warcraft? Yeah. They bloody love pandas. Let's let them play pandas.
I hear that's true.
And it's just become, World of Warcraft has increasingly just become cutesy bollocks. And that's fine, but it's annoying because it does have a direct impact on all Warcraft lore. And it's turned something that was awesome into something that's shit.
Oh no,
it's
only
good.
the tutorial. Like after that, there's no storyline stuff. It's all you drop that. the thing I like most about Hearthstone, the real thing that drew me in was that I'm really familiar with how the classes work and how all their abilities work, and it's reflected in the cards so well, and yet, as far as we can tell, seems to have, they've maintained balance there. How the hell you even start to do that? You make flavor stuff like cards that pull in all the cool abilities that you remember from WoW and make it a card game that isn't broken. I just don't know how you even begin.
I'm enjoying it, but I'm wondering at the moment how much of that is down to the slickness, because I've been playing a lot of card games recently. There's been Card Hunter, there's been Scrolls, there's been Hearthstone. I like it. It's undeniably like a Blizzard game. It is slick as fuck. Like even when you get like your new decks of cards and new packs to unlock, the way you lift out the pack and put it into like a little stone like space and it opens up with magic. It's just like, it's beautiful. It's like,
the only card game I play is Uno, and that's because most of them get their dick out and I just laugh at them.
What? What?
It's talking about Xbox Live Uno. Yeah.
Oh, right. I thought you went to some weird like nightclub on a Friday or something. Right, it's Dick Uno, ladies and gentlemen.
Uno, classic Dick Uno.
Oh, of course, yeah, because that's what people used to do on, was it a Vision Cam?
Xbox Live Vision Cam.
You need to open your mind, get the old brain going with a bit
Hearthstone's all right, Dave. It's kind of got its claws in me a little bit. Really? I didn't play it for a great deal of time because I was watching victorious England, but
I'll tell you,
it has piqued my interest.
Well, you're just very dismissive about everything, which isn't boring fucking shite.
Well, no, I don't know about that.
No, I'm joking. But honestly, one of the things that is really good about Hearthstone, actually, and I really think is the best thing about it, is the pacing is really nice. I like the way that if it lets you
pretty
chain,
simple as well.
It lets you chain moves together. So if it doesn't give you a reward for doing that, but it means if you know you want to cast that, then use that on that and attack with that one. You can just go dum dum dum,
and then it does it.
And it means that it's like playing a card game on a table. If you're playing with friends, you can. If you're fast enough, you can go and do that.
You're not always waiting for the game to catch up. Which
it doesn't do that thing of being like, wait, we're playing an animation. You're like, fuck off with your animations. I want to do this.
Play my cards.
It's actually, I'm not sure how much you guys have experienced this part of it yet, but when you unlock all the classes, it unlocks a mode called Arena Mode, and that's a really interesting way of playing it because you don't get to build your deck or pick the deck that you've already got. It just gives you, it keeps presenting you with options. You get to pick out 3 cards, and every time you pick, that adds to a new deck that you've created. And so there's like this random element to it. But the cards or anything could be really good or really bad, could be really suitable for what you need or not. And you end up creating this kind of random deck that you haven't got that much control of, and see how far you can get with it. And the people you're playing have also done that. And it kind of gets around the complaint that, a lot of these free-to-play card games get. It's like, well, is it, how much of an advantage do I get if I just buy the best cards? Because you can buy decks in Hearthstone. But this gives you access to all the cards, no matter if you've unlocked them or not. And it seems to be where most of the competitive stuff's happening, as far as I can tell. It's obviously in beta.
Seems interesting. I mean, I'm not sure how balanced it is and all that stuff. I mean, I struggle to know what I'm doing a lot of time, and it seems like I just build a deck.
I never understand what the enemy's doing. They just make up their own rules.
Well, that's it. I'm still in the back zone. I'm like people doing stuff. I'm like, how do you do that?
Yeah,
that's cheating.
Exactly.
I don't know what I think about it yet. I like it, but I mean, of course I like it. It's it's a Blizzard game. There's something about the way those guys make their games that just makes them immediately nice.
They
get all of the aesthetics. They tickle your brain the right way. Whether or not it's actually really good,
I think so far I really, really like it. It's my favourite card game out of the year so far. And we've played
all of them.
Yeah,
big words.
But we'll be doing a head-to-head video of that probably up tomorrow.
Oh, Simon, you're going to have to get involved, man. This is going to.
I haven't got a deck yet.
That's exactly why.
Maybe.
It should be good.
I'll think about it. Put it under it.
But yeah, we'll be doing a head-to-head thing, and we might we'll work out a way of doing an interesting thing with that. But yeah, the other game, of course, which is a big one, is Pokemon's.
Catch
'em all.
I don't play Pokemon. Pass me by.
You know it's my destiny.
Whenever I see Pokemon XY written down, all I think of is Pokemon sexy. I don't know why. Just because X and Y.
Is it because you think Pokemon are sexy?
No.
Is this a thing you're getting to?
The only world with X and Y together in my head is sexy.
Apparently the Mega Evolution of Charizard has a mustache. So
can you think of another word?
Xylophone.
Xylophone, that would work. Pokemon Xylophone.
So I'm just going to show you. I'm going to show you guys my Pokemons, just so you can see. Right?
Are we going to describe it, or
I wasn't that impressed with what I saw earlier, Matt. I'm just saying.
Well, this was my Froakie, right? And he was called. He was a Froakie, but now he's a Frogadier.
Hang on, I have to move.
And he's called Frock.
It's a frog.
Frock the Frog.
It looks like
is that an official name, or is that?
No, that's one I wrote.
It looks like he's blowing one of those party poppers things.
He's like a cool frog ninja. And then we've got Masamune, and that's actually just a floating sword.
Hang on,
what? It's just a sword with an eye.
That's
right?
not.
It's badass, yeah.
I don't see how that's alive.
Yeah. Is it? Evolution's
incredible. Got no
weird in the
gills.
world of Pokemon.
I've got a combi, which is a bee. It's like a little bee.
I like that one.
What's the?
It's cute.
Is
it
it-
collects honey.
What makes it Pokemon? What makes it Pokemon? Has it got lasers in its eyes?
It does stuff. It's quite good. And I got a Charmeleon called Charizard.
I've got a problem with your
That one I
Charmeleon.
recognise.
No. Have a closer look, Simon. What colour is a Charmeleon?
Red.
I don't know.
Red. A strong red. That Charmeleon is
They
pink.
changed the colours in it.
Matt.
It's not my fault. It's not my fault.
You've got a pink
It's not
Charmeleon.
my
So what?
bloody...
What's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with it. It's just unusual.
They're all that colour now. They've changed it. I think
It's a
they
new game. It's like Call of Duty, isn't it?
I like your pink Charmeleon.
Customised.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And this guy's quite cool. He's called Whismer, and he's just fucking weird.
Whismer sounds
He's
like a
You look like
nan.
a little mouse.
He's like a mouse crossed with a marshmallow who's blind.
It's not
That sounds
threatening.
better.
Wasn't there one called
what is his-
Marshmallow?
what is his
Probably an
attacks?
older one.
Might have been
Maybe
Digimon.
I've made that up. Maybe I should work for Nintendo.
What are the attacks of the
You already
marshmallow
do.
mouse?
Roll
over,
He does.
Luke Cute.
He does. What does he do? He's got a move called Astonish,
Astonish.
a
He
move
just
called Uproar,
I
starts
don't
doing some party
understand
tricks.
a move called Howl, and a move called Pound. All right, well, I'll just whiz through this because I know it's sad that nobody else here ever seems to like Pokemon.
So I don't
Pokemon.
like it. It passed me by. It passed me by when it
But it's
first
still,
came out.
this is
Now
the thing
I
is,
missed it.
it's actually kind of like, I think you're a Nintendo fan. You like your
Massive,
Nintendo stuff.
obsessive.
You've got to try this one, man. Honestly, what I'll say is I was skeptical because every time a Pokemon game comes out, everyone's like, this is the best one so far. And all the time I buy them, I'm always like, yeah, it's fucking boring. It's the same again because they've been the same for about 15 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they've actually made some quite big changes this time. Obviously, the fact that they are all 3D, you actually get to see the big 3D battles and see
Yeah.
Pokemon animating around. That does make a difference. It's pretty fucking cool. Also, it just has that wonderful Nintendo sheen. It gets you through all the starting bits quite quickly. So within the first hour, you've got a starting Pokemon, you've beaten the first gym, and then it does a thing of being like, hey, you can have one of the original 3 as well. So you get to choose one of the new 3 ones, and I went for the frog because it's the best one.
Pikachu. I mean.
And then you can get no. You just catch Pikachus. You don't get to choose one at the start.
Simon, what sort of
that's it.
Nintendo
But no, this is the
fan
thing.
are
I
you?
told you I don't
Honestly.
play Pokemon. I don't understand it. I
Simon,
don't know anything about
You
it.
should check it out because if you've never played a Pokemon game, you'd love this. Because honestly, the first Pokemon game you play, they get boring after you've played a couple of them. But the
Yeah.
first one you play is amazing. It's like so good.
But
I'm so jealous
how-
that you don't know anything about it because you'll have an amazing time.
I wonder though, like when you get to pick one of the original starting 3, you'd be excited about that because you're familiar with Pokemon.
Well, no, of course,
I wonder
of
if like
Oh, no,
how much
but
of it's
no.
fan service.
But that's the thing is that no, there isn't that much fan service actually because they've tried to make sure it is a bit different. And there's a lot of simple stuff. I mean, almost there's like an overwhelming amount of stuff to do. I mean, when I started playing it, I was really drunk and I didn't have a clue what was going on. I was literally like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. It's great though. But it's got stuff like it tries to cater for a lot of people. So you've got this like Pokemon and Me thing where you can do basically.
yeah, I've heard of that.
It's basically like kind of like Nintendogs thing. If you want, you can like.
What is the point of that?
Well, actually, it does give your characters like an XP boost in battles. If you like, every now and then you just pop and give them
And
some
also,
cakes.
Makes
and
your
give them-
Pokemon happy.
So you just
people
rub
love-
them up.
The people love that.
Honestly,
They love
that's the
that
thing is
stuff,
lots of people
like-
love this stuff, and like girls
I mean,
love
look at
it.
Nintendogs.
But then I
People
actually
love it.
I quite like it. I quite like occasionally popping it and just give it a little stroke, give it a cake, play some little puzzle mini games to earn more cakes.
When I played
wouldn't.
Nintendogs for 5 minutes, I kind of got it. It was kind of something
It's kind of
about
cute.
it. Yeah.
Anyway, it's got that, but then it's also got a battle trainer where you can play. And this is actually the smartest thing about it, right? And this is going to go over your heads, but for anyone out there who's played Pokemon games, one of the things I don't like about Pokemon games is it has this hidden numbers system behind it, right? It looks like it's simple, furry, fuzzy fun for kids, but actually it's for mentally kind of intelligent nutters.
It's like a really complex version of rock paper.
No.
Scissors, isn't it?
No. That's simple.
I thought-
What do you know, Bratters?
I said a really complex version of rock.
No, but that's not. But that's simple. Like it's
papers,
a
rocks.
complex version of paper scissor.
rock paper,
Rock, paper,
scissors. There we are.
But that's
What would
no.
a complex version of that be?
Well, it's got
Lots.
He's driven me off track now.
Go.
All right, Pokemon. Right, you've got like 17 different types of Pokemon,
Yes.
and they're all like it is like rock, paper, scissors. And the fact that first you've got fire beats grass, grass beats water, water beats fire. Right. In terms of elements in the
Right,
game.
yeah.
But there's like 17 different elements. You get like metal type, ghost type, psychic type, fighting type. There's like loads, dragon type. Anyway, that bit is still super simple. Like that bit, it seems complicated, but actually it's just a case of learning them, and then actually it's quite easy.
Right.
And that's something you're going to bloody enjoy when you play it for the
Okay.
first time, because I know
Thanks
it
for
all,
letting me know.
and it's kind of like, that's easy.
Okay.
But no, when you level up your Pokemon, there's 2 types of criteria. There's IV and EV, right? In terms of their numbers that go up.
This is a kid's game.
This is not this is amazing, right? You'll love this. This is not ever mentioned in any of the games. But the stats that your Pokemon ends up with are based on these two criteria. One of them is fixed, right? One of them is it's fixed to the Pokemon type. So it's like it's going to have this much strength, this much attack, this much special attack when it's level 100. However, there's also the EV, and the EV is based on a bunch of things. These stats also are slightly randomized, which means breeding is a factor and people can breed 20 Pokemon to get the best one. But what I've always not liked about it is the EV thing, right? Basically means that every time you knock out a Pokemon, that type of Pokemon will give you certain types of EV stats, right? Which means that I didn't know this, and it means if you end up like fighting just certain types of Pokemon a lot, then it means you'll just be boosting one type of stat without knowing.
Wow,
so it means if you
very good.
Well, no, but it's like a subtle background thing that you never see, and it means your potential of your Pokemon is based on the number of what type of things they fight.
Right.
And it means that if you really want to make a really strong one, then you need to make sure you're fighting the right type of Pokemon with that Pokemon. And it's a weird meta game that I've always found a bit like it gets a bit just knowing it exists makes me uncomfortable because I'm always trying to do that, and then it becomes a weird grindy like maths game.
Yeah.
However, what they've done in this, and I think this is actually, again, this is going all over your heads, I apologize, but if you're a Pokemon fan, people will love this, is that you've got this new system where you can do super training with your Pokemon, where you play these little mini games and you earn little punching bags for your Pokemon that they can batter away out on the bottom screen. It's like it's like a background thing you can do, but also mini games you can do. And what it means is you can manually control that EV. So instead of, they'll still get it from like killing enemies and stuff and fighting in a normal way, but it means if you want to actually kind of like train your Pokemon to like really max out their attack stat or their HP stat, you can do that, and you can take control over that in a way that you've never really been able to do.
I'm right in thinking that you'd only ever need to do that if you were intending to play other players that do that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pokemon's never been a difficult game.
No, it's not that difficult. So you don't really need to do that. It's kind of cool because, I mean, I've already maxed out the super training on one of my Pokemon.
Yeah.
And it's just cool that he's getting much more powerful more quickly because I've done these mini games with him. I don't know. The whole thing just seems really nice. It seems like there's just a lot of stuff to explore, a lot of stuff to play around with. It just feels like a really generous, fun thing, and it's always introducing new things. But they've also they've sharpened stuff up. They've always had this berry system where you could plant berries around the world, but then you have to remember where you have to remember where you plant them, and then fly to that area and then check them. Now they've just got a berry farm where it's like for Harvest Moon, and you can just go and check back on it every day. It's really nice. It's like, I don't know, every time I play a Pokemon game, it always feels like you're just going through the same motions. It feels like this one is just, they've streamlined things, they've made it better, they've added a lot of content. I think it's really cool. I think it's a really cool game.
Awesome. Happy days. Maybe I'll play it, maybe I won't, I don't know. I'll consider it.
I think as much, it's like Nintendo as fuck. And I think if you've never played a Pokemon game and you like Nintendo games, you're insane not to play this.
I'm insane anyway.
You will love it.
All
it's wicked.
Maybe for a podcast I will play it.
Yeah, you should. You should. Anyway, I think it's time to... Dave, have you got your news cannon all fired up?
Big news this week. Big news. Everyone's upset.
Uh-oh.
Watch Dogs.
What have you done? He's reshuffling in his seat.
Can Dave read the news? Can he be on news at 10 Amazing? Watch Dogs delayed.
People are upset.
News at 10 with David Scammell.
Who's watching the Watch Dogs?
No one now.
No, next year. So yeah, a bit of a blow, I think. I think that was one of the main next-gen games that everyone who's picking up a next-gen console was looking forward to. I think everyone in this office who's getting a next-gen console was definitely getting that as well.
Intrigued, if nothing else.
Yeah. Now, I think I brought it up on the podcast a couple of weeks ago that I was a bit worried about Watch Dogs.
You did.
Is that right?
We had the Ubisoft 10 minutes.
That's right.
That's right. And you did say you were worried about Watch Dogs.
Yeah, so I'm in two minds. I'm glad that they've delayed it, and I also think it takes a lot of the strength of next gen away from the launch. Also, it's weird for Ubisoft to do this because they don't typically delay their games for quality reasons. Like Assassin's Creed 3 we saw last year.
That's true, yeah.
Launched completely boned, and the original Assassin's Creed was not great. The thing is, I think the industry has changed quite a bit since the few years since the original Assassin's Creed launched. And I think back then, if you had a strong enough idea, you could get away with releasing a game that perhaps wasn't quite at the quality bar it should have been, but showed potential. I think with something like Watch Dogs now, there are so many major IPs that are performing so strongly. If you want that franchise to do well and to do well for a long period of time, which I think is their plans for Watch Dogs, the first one needs to be very strong. Yeah. Otherwise, people are just going to overlook it the next time it comes around.
I think I think the situation here is a bit different. I think that they have underestimated, and I don't blame them because they didn't know. But I think that they aimed to go for this with the launch window because they thought they'd probably be far enough away enough from GTA. But it's because at that point nobody knew anything about GTA Online.
Possibly, but the
And
thing
I
is
wonder if
now
maybe
that-
with GTA Online they've kind of looked at it and they've gone, I think it's too close. I think they've realised that because people are going to be still playing GTA for quite a while, that by the time it comes out, people are still going to be kind of dipping into GTA. Most people, obviously, I know a lot of people listening to this sort of podcast will have already caned it and done it, and they'll be getting bored of it now. But I think they might have realised it's just too close to everything else.
I think maybe it's possible that they've got to their submission build and they've had whoever they've had come to look at it and tell them what they think of it. And because it is so close to GTA, and obviously the bar for the genre has been raised by a
It
certain
feels like
amount,
an easy decision to
they've
make.
come back and they've gone, well, it's not as good.
I
as
have-
Also,
it
I
needs
wondered
to
if
be.
maybe it just looks like shite on current gen consoles.
I have heard that the people playing it at, I know there was a playable version at Eurogamer, so a lot of people were playing it over that weekend, and I heard technically it felt a bit behind.
Well, for a long time,
it didn't
people
feel
have
like it
been-
was close to release.
A long time people have been criticising some of the trailers that they've put out quite recently and that it didn't look like the original reveal stuff.
So yeah, the kind of hype for that game has plummeted since the
It's
first.
kind of, yeah.
Not plummeted. That's a bit
Well,
harsh.
I
but
blame Ubisoft for
it's-
that, for
I think
just
slipped.
sticking it down our throats
Yeah.
every... I mean, nothing wrong with that.
And
Marketing's marketing,
each
but it's too
trailer
much.
looking a little
Yeah.
bit less impressive.
The thing is now, though, is that it's not going to come out until at least April next year. Now, it's between April, May, and June. And I mean, when's GTA going to come out on next gen? Because it clearly is going to come out on next gen. And I imagine if
March.
it does, it'll come out around May time.
I wanted to come out in March. 'cause
Yeah,
then
what did we
it's-
say? We was March. For
Well,
the
if it
fiscal
comes
year,
out,
right?
if it comes out, well, yeah, at the end of the fiscal year. But if it comes out in March, that means it's 2 months before
That's
Watch
the
Dogs
thing.
again. Brilliant,
So-
absolutely brilliant.
So yeah, I really don't know why they've delayed it, unless it really is truly completely screwed.
I don't know. The whole thing with Watch Dogs has given me a funny taste for a while.
It was going to sell absolute gangbusters, though. Everyone's
Yeah,
going to buy it
there
with a
was a lot of
console.
people.
It was going to be massive
That's
Christmas
why
hit.
I don't. That's why I think a part of me thinks some of it must have had to be quality reasons because of GTA.
It has
Because
to be.
it was going to sell low. Everybody I know wants to play Watch Dogs. Everybody I know, even like my people that are obsessed with games want to play Watch Dogs. My casual friends want to play Watch
And there were
Dogs.
people on Twitter last night saying, "Oh, I might cancel my next gen
with my
console
next-gen
because of the
console.
Watch Dogs." But
Yeah, the PlayStation 4 like starting lineup.
I've got to
isn't
say,
quite as
I looked
good
at
as
both.
it-
I looked at both the
Oh, there's no
lineups.
games.
It's nothing. I'm like I was looking at. I saw people talking about what games they were going to get with the next gen consoles, and I was like, "That's a rubbish choice. Why would you get those games?" And then I looked at the full list and thought, "Oh my god, there's nothing." Like
I think, it
Depends what
affects,
you like.
I think it affects Sony more than it does Microsoft because for a long time Sony have been pushing for Watch Dogs.
Yeah.
They've associated themselves with Watch Dogs.
Absolutely.
They've got the official
It's true.
bundle. It's always been at their reveals and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think it will affect PS4 more than it will Xbox One. But I don't know. I mean,
there's no killer IPs, are there?
There's
on
not.
either.
I mean, particularly PS4. You know, I don't think Drive Club, Knack, and Killzone are anywhere near as strong as,
No.
they need to be, really. But I mean, we haven't seen the final versions. Obviously, that's the caveat.
I'm struggling
But-
to get excited about those.
I can't
That's
want
the
to
thing.
play
They're
Call
not
of Duty this
exciting.
year,
They're not
though.
exciting. I mean, I'm up for the like you say, the boring shit. Call of Duty, Battlefield.
I'm up
Need
for Call of Duty
Speed,
this year.
That sort of stuff.
I'm up for it.
You up for it?
Yeah, I haven't played it for a couple of years. I'm back now. I want to
I'm
play it.
definitely not up for it this year. I'm up for Battlefield this
Next
year.
gen Battlefield is the
No, I wanna play Call of
The thing
Duty.
is, though, if
I'm
you're
back.
a bit strapped for cash, you're not sure whether to get a next gen machine. There's probably not much of a reason now to really invest on day one.
No,
really,
that's exactly it.
And because all the good stuff, it
I
seems is
didn't
coming
think
to
there was-
what you've already got. So
There wasn't a massive thing even when Watch Dogs was around, I don't think.
I don't know. I think it was that little bit
Yeah, I know
extra
what you
that
mean,
gave you
yeah.
that extra reason to think maybe I do want.
Well, that's the
one.
thing. You want something cool and
New.
new. You want something
Yeah.
new to show it off. And I mean, Rise is interesting, but it looks just
But
very.
there's only one
flavourless.
person in the world that likes Rise.
It's you.
Hello.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. It's incredibly weak. I think, and I think it's not that the games are going to be bad. They're going to be some good games,
But they
but
look awesome as well.
but I think it's really depressing how little imagination there is in the lineup. Like it is just like everything is a sequel,
But
apart from
that's-
Rise, and Rise just doesn't look very good.
That's a combination of imagination and fear, isn't it? It's just people don't want to tap
Yeah.
out. You know, they don't want to lose margins and stuff.
I get
And Call of
that.
Duty will sell, Battlefield will sell, Assassin's Creed will sell.
It's interesting
you know,
that stuff that's getting the most buzz is the new IPs. When for so long people have been saying you need a sequel, new
Well-
IPs don't sell. You think Titanfall,
Watch Dogs
and The Division are the three probably the biggest next gen games people are looking forward to.
I think
Yeah.
New
Titanfall's
IPs.
going to do really well. But I still think actually the reason that Titanfall will do really well is not the reason. I think at the moment, like everybody's talking about Titanfall. Like all the media are going Titanfall. Oh my god! And I get the impression that most actually kind of fans are like, whatever, don't really care. I get the impression that Titanfall isn't going to be one that becomes massive because of press. I reckon it's going to come out, people are going to play it, and it's going to be like, I think
Like
the same
Call of
thing's going to
Duty
happen
4.
with Call of Duty 4.
Yeah, people
I
just
reckon
love
there'll
that
be
shit.
mad word of mouth, and everyone will just go, you've got to play
Mad
this.
word of mouth.
What's the thing? I think that there was a lot of reaction on because I spoke to community manager at Respawn about this very thing. Like,
Abby,
has it been tough to convince people? And she kind of said, once people play it, then they get it.
Well, that's the press, to be honest, because most people
that's what I'm saying. That's what I mean.
It when they've
It was funny. I talked to lots of strangers at Eurogamer Expo, and everyone was like, "Oh no, boring." And I'm like, actually, I don't know.
Like, we didn't see it at E3, and we came away thinking, "Wow, not that bothered. I missed it," because you kind of get an idea of what you think it is.
What's
then I played it at Gamescom, and I was like, "Wish I played this at E3. This is amazing. It's really good."
You wish. If a genie came up to you, you would have gone, please.
Well, do you know what I mean? Don't take the piss. But perhaps more interesting than the delay is what it means for Ubisoft slate beyond those games, because they've delayed Watch Dogs and The Crew now. The Crew is now scheduled for summer, so between July and September time. But also next year they were meant to have The Division. And
that's got to go back now.
Does it? I don't know. Maybe it does.
Assume.
That was meant to be late next year. And there's also rumours that...
You know what? The Division, I really hope that Ubisoft learn from their mistakes with Watch Dogs, right? And now just beaver away at it and take as long as they need to. And then maybe like 3 months before release, re-reveal it and literally go, it's coming out this day. Yeah. And then just that's it.
I don't want to see...
Because they really, honestly...
I can guarantee you they won't do that.
I know, but I think Ubisoft really needs to take a step back and look at the way they handle their PR and marketing. They feel very much like a company trying to justify their positions in terms of like, there's a lot, they've obviously got...
Just love doing loads of stuff.
No, I don't think that's true. I think that they've got the same problem, the same reason that when you log on to... Do you remember years ago on Facebook, you used to log on and every time you log onto Facebook, it was like, hey, we've completely redesigned the Facebook experience for you. And you go, why? Like, there was nothing wrong with it. It felt to me like there were people whose job it was to do that, who were just constantly changing stuff because otherwise people would say, well, we don't need you. I think that, I don't know, I get the impression that Ubisoft maybe has a lot of marketing and PR people and who are justifying their jobs by doing shitloads of stuff. And actually, it's like, I don't think that lots of PR is always the best angle.
No, I don't think at all. But I think Ubisoft, they're antithesis to each other, aren't they? I think Ubisoft just think we must keep this in the public's minds constantly. Otherwise.
But I don't think that's... And also, like, I don't think that's worked for Watch Dogs. I get the impression that...
it didn't work for any of their games, because eventually you just go, oh, another thing? You've got to be kidding me.
Precisely. You lose the hype by
they
giving away
didn't do it with Rayman, though. Poor Rayman gets kicked into the corner. It wasn't like a trailer every month for Rayman.
And it works. I don't know. I think that I hope that they're looking at their mistakes, because I think it's a mistake, because it means that by the time that something comes out, they've told you everything. And actually with Assassin's Creed 4, I've tried to avoid that because it looks like a fun pirate game and I don't want to know anything about it.
They've still done loads. They have done less for Assassin's Creed 4 because a lot of it was Watch Dogs.
I was going to say they've done loads for Assassin's Creed 4.
It wasn't as much as Assassin's Creed 3. Assassin's Creed 3 was horrendous.
We were still in the Assassin's Creed 3 buzz and they were announcing Assassin's Creed 4. It was literally like 3 months after it come out. They're still doing their DLC.
What were you about to rumour? You said the rumour is...
and Far Cry 4 as well for next year, potentially.
No way, they can't release that many games. Surely not. That'd be madness.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how true this is, whether this is the case or not, but I was reading that The Division and Far Cry 4 may come out at the end of next year. So, but if Watch Dogs...
That's a great year for Ubisoft, if that's the case.
But if Watch Dogs and The Crew are now bumped up closer to what those releases would have been, I don't know whether they'll now think to push it back. Because obviously Far Cry 3 did very well for them last Christmas. And I think maybe that was because of a bit of a price cut towards Christmas time.
Yeah.
But it reviewed very well as well.
Oh, no, it did. It absolutely did.
I mean, I don't think it was that good, but,
commercially, I think it far exceeded what they expected it to do. And I think maybe they now think this can do well at Christmas. This can be our shooter to go alongside Call of Duty Battlefield and all that.
I thought Far Cry 3 was awesome for about 8 hours and then it just completely lost its way.
8 out of 10. Classic 8 out of 10.
I'd probably agree with you there, Dave. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I think Watch Dogs is a funny one, just because I think it's one of those games, and I honestly think that they need to look at the way other games, not just big games, are marketed in the way that these days, a lot of the time, right? How well do games do? Like, one of the reasons I think Minecraft did so well was literally people, it just suddenly appeared and everyone went, hey, look at this game called Minecraft. And everyone went, that looks cool. And it's like, well, you can buy it now if you want. It's £6. I think having that immediate ability to
agree.
Just play it.
I think the problem is that it's like Ubisoft do well. They do well off there. I mean, it's like everyone... You're going to hate this analogy, but I'm going to do it anyway. Chelsea Football Club change their football manager all the time. And everyone goes, oh, this is terrible. But they win a lot of trophies. And everyone goes, oh, Ubisoft... And I agree, don't get me wrong, they do release too much stuff. But the games sell millions of copies. I think, so they probably think it works. They probably think this strategy is working.
I just think the Watch Dogs stuff's been so weird because we all saw that first trailer and thought, oh my God, that looks incredible. I just hope it isn't a shooter, or I hope it's not too limited. And then every trailer they've shown since then has been a shooter that shows quite limited
Think about this, right? That whole Ubisoft thing with Watch Dogs, right? Where that week... Remember that week when everyone just went, holy fuck, Watch Dogs, right?
Oh, yeah.
Imagine in a world in which they've gone, Watch Dogs, here it is. It's out next week. Imagine how many copies they sold. Imagine.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, so many.
That's interesting.
They'd sell like 10
There's
million
been this
copies.
discussion before though with like Half-Life 3. Valve can be the only ones that do it because they own the platform that you can do stuff
Honestly,
like that
yeah,
on.
I think as long as retailers know, unlike who was it, Sega,
wouldn't matter for
they went
Valve, though, would
Saturn's
it?
out, and everyone went, what? We haven't got it in stock.
For
And
something
it all
like
broke.
Steam, you wouldn't need a retailer.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Oh, man.
I honestly think there's something in that, and I think that one of the reasons that indie games at the moment are such an explosion is that there is such a short window between that initial gut drive of, oh my god, this game looks amazing, and being like able to buy it. Like the amount of games I've bought that has literally been because I've seen it and I've gone, that looks amazing. How much is it? £5 done. And it's impulse. Where the problem was, I would have bought Watch Dogs at the instant if I could have done. Even if I bought early access or something, I would have done it. Whereas now, I feel like I know so much about the game and the systems that people have already in previews and stuff started dissecting its limitations because there's been so much access to it that already I'm like, well, maybe.
I feel like they're getting shorter from reveal to launch, with the exception of Watch Dogs. I mean, it's going to be 2 years since that was revealed now. But, you know, it's games like Saints Row 4, only a 6-month campaign. You know, it's 6 months before release. And, you know, maybe for Saints Row 3, I imagine that was probably a lot longer.
Yeah.
So I think they're cutting down on that sort of stuff.
I think it's one of the reasons that Kickstarter is so successful is because you can capitalize on getting people's money at that moment when they are still so excited.
There isn't a rush after that. Then you get to control the time.
There isn't a rush, and also you don't need to do a PR campaign for it because you've already sold it. No?
Yeah, I guess it depends what your status is in the industry. I guess, you know, the big companies could do that, but at the same time they have marketing budgets they want to spend.
An extremely brave move. Like if that does start to happen,
mega
you've got
ballsy.
if that flops, Jesus Christ, like.
Yeah, I think it's difficult. I think it's the same reason that all these companies have lots of problems. They're very big, they can't maneuver, they can't change, and I think the landscape is changing far faster than companies can. And I still think we're going to see some major casualties.
I think that may happen if the sales drop. But Assassin's Creed 3 did what, like 12 million comes? So they just probably think we're laughing here, boys and girls. Just keep it rolling.
But I think Assassin's Creed is an exception. So I have to see how.
It's interesting. They also think that Assassin's Creed 4 will not do as well as Assassin's Creed 3 did. And I know there was a lot of hype for 3, but there seems to be a little bit more interest in 4 simply because it's a Pirates game.
I don't know.
It's on more consoles.
I don't know. I've had the opposite feeling.
Really.
I felt that Assassin's Creed 3 was this amazing setting, and everyone was really excited about that setting. Everyone talking about Assassin's Creed 4 says, "Oh, that pirate bit was cool, wasn't it?" And like, I don't see the same.
I think there'll be less interest in it. I think it's perfect for me though, because actually it felt like with 3 they really hammed it up. It's going to be a big story, epic game, massive. Whereas this one, it goes, well, it's just going to be like kind of a decent Assassin's Creed game with pirates. And actually, I'm more up for that than the big epic story because I always feel like
I bet it still sells 10 million plus.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. I think you're probably right. Anyway, we've got a chance for a couple of little turbo questions.
Turbo questions. Okay.
Coming out called Turbo.
Can we go and see it?
Racing. Yeah,
what is it? What the fuck is it? Right,
it's
with
about
this recent thing of like films. Films having like single names. Like it's such a weird trend. It's like Turbo.
It was Turbo Super
Heist.
Stunt Squad. Or was that the game? Maybe that's the game.
Don't want to talk about that.
Oh,
tell me about Turbo briefly.
It's a snail that drinks some kind of powder and becomes really fast, so enters the Indy 500.
I think this is a dream.
And there's an amazing line where someone goes, "A snail can't enter the Indy 500." And I just want the voiceover man to go, "Well, no, actually, you're right, he can't. It's a snail."
Myself and Miller, we watched the trailer. When was it for Man of Steel?
I watched Man of Steel. I was in absolute hysterics.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I think we were the only two in the cinema. Just couldn't control ours.
Couldn't control laughing. So Turbo questions.
Okay, the first question comes from Twitter from Simon Dawes. That's not the same guy from
Simon Dawes.
From Dawes. It might be the incredible guy from that occasionally appears on the live stream. And he asks a question that man probably would say, which is, do you think Watch Dogs was delayed because it's rubbish?
Yes, maybe on some levels, yes.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very strong chance.
Good Turbo question. That was good. Is there any other comical story you'd like to get the Telltale treatment?
Batman. Joke.
Batman's got
You'll
the
answer
detective
most
side.
questions with Batman.
Yeah.
won't you?
Yeah, every question can be answered with Batman.
Oh, the Killing Joke.
We can talk about Batman next week on the podcast.
Sonic
Origins,
the comic.
Starting, isn't it?
I used to read Sonic the
So
comic.
did I.
I did as
I would
well.
love a dark Sonic game from Telltale. That'd be amazing.
It wasn't very good from what I remember. If you created a wrestler for WWE 2K14, what would you call it? Also, do you have any fave entrants for the game?
I have a favourite entrance, Brock Lesnar's. And who would I create in a wrestler?
Yeah,
I create Virgil.
What would you call the wrestler that you've created?
I call him the Man Mountain.
Is that just an actual wrestler?
No, there's one
okay.
called the Man Mountain. Well, there's a few. But
I imagine there's a lot of wrestlers called the Man Mountain.
I call them the Iron Mountain.
That's good. I
There
like
you
it.
go,
If each of you were Pokemon gym leaders, what type would your gym be and which Pokemon would you use?
Matt. Can't
Oh,
express.
I think gym leaders are pricks. They're useless. They consistently just use one type of Pokemon, which
Pick
is
a variety, so some little crap doesn't walk in with a baseball cap on and just
It's
completely
incredibly
destroy your whole
unrealistic.
roster.
I mean, like, if you're a fire gym leader and all your Pokemon are fire Pokemon, all it
Come
takes
on.
is a fucking
Seriously.
Squirtle. It's a joke.
How do they even
a
get
whole
into that
system is a
position?
joke.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
would be the leader of the crabs.
He was the leader of the crabs.
You could have Sebastian from Little Mermaid.
I'd be super crab man.
Dave Scammell, leader of the crabs. Well, that's a bloody Photoshop waiting to happen, isn't it?
There's a question from the forum which is kind of making me question a lot of things, just because I can't really answer it. Mason Cooper 42, what's the greatest thing you've achieved in a game? I'm struggling to think of something I've achieved in a game that I'd
Do you
refer to as
achieve
great.
things in a game? Maybe the game.
See,
makes it
questioning
for you,
everything.
Yeah.
We're in the wrong career.
The greatest thing achieved in
I got 1,000 gamer points on FIFA World Cup 2006.
Oh, how did you manage that?
There you go. You see, everyone's impressed by that because it's got the complete all the scenarios achievement, which is
Absolute
borderline
bastard.
impossible.
500 G's that one.
That's why I did it.
Been trying to get that for years.
It's very hard. Very, very hard. I'm proud of that. There you go. That's an achievement. Look at the reaction I got.
Yeah, that was
Loving
good.
it.
That was good.
From
I
an
saved the
achievement
world.
whore as well.
I saved the world from Hitler in Call of Duty 2. That's my achievement.
That's good.
I don't know. I mean, I got all of the. I got 100%ed Rayman Origins, which I was quite pleased with because
Pretty good.
I've never 100%ed another game. The only other game I've come close to 100%ing, I'm quite proud of this actually, is the fact that I got 980 achievements on the original Viva Pinata, which took me a while, but I love doing that. And I refused to get the last achievement because the last achievement was have played the game for 20 hours, and I got all the other achievements in about 15. And I thought, no, I'm not going to leave my console on for 5 hours just
No,
for that stupid badge of pride.
I did everything in Oblivion. Everything.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Whenever people ask this
Sad.
question, though, I always feel, my immediate reaction is I always think of what my brother did, and I'm always jealous because he managed to do something that I couldn't do. That was an incredible achievement. He managed to complete everything in Cave Story, which is a kind of 2D shmup made by one guy. Cave Story is a wonderful game. It has some of the best music in anything ever, but it's really hard, and it has this weird, like, secret. To get the proper ending, you have at the start of the game, you get given a machine gun, and you have to like. There's so many things you have to do. Like you have to refuse whenever the game gives you something where it's like, "Hey, do you want a jetpack?" In most games, you go yes, and then you get the jetpack and you carry on. And that's what I did. But it's one of these games where you can say no, and instead of going, "Hey, don't be stupid," of course you have to have the jetpack. You actually don't, and it means that every time in the game you get offered like something that's going to help you, you say no, and then there's a much harder ending with an impossible boss. And it's fucking him hard, but he did it. Bastard.
I'll give you one more very quick one.
Right.
In Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, no, it's Need for Speed again, I'm very sorry. There is a race called Vanishing Point. It's like a time trial thing. And this was the first game that introduced auto-logging, which compares all your times. And there was a bit of an industry thing at the time between certain circles where everyone had to try and beat each other on Vanishing Point. And it counted how many times everyone had tried it. And I was the top of the leaderboard, and I tried it like 3 times. And everyone else trying to beat my time like 100, 120.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah,
Screw you.
screw
Love
you.
it.
Yeah, I wish they did more of that. Bring it back.
And I think that let's have one more, shall we?
One more.
Should Naughty Dog make a The Last of Us sequel?
Definitely not.
Nah.
I don't even like the fact they're doing DLC for it, I've realised now, because Naughty Dog have proven that if they make a new IP, they can make it great. Just do a new IP again. Make me feel about something new
What's
than I
the-
did about Last
what's
of
the
Us.
DLC?
You'll never know. You'll never know what it could have been.
No, but it doesn't need it. It's a
don't wanna
finished
know.
story.
I don't know if I want to know
How's
or
the
not.
DLC structured it for The Last of
Different
Us?
people. You got new maps out today, actually, if you're a Last of Us multiplayer fan.
Yeah.
New maps out today, and then the
I've heard it's
DLC
good.
stuff is different stories.
Yeah,
Well, I'm sure it will be good, but
Simon and I played
I like the multiplayer, but I don't want another Last of Us game.
No,
What
absolutely
could they
not.
possibly do? All they could do is ruin it. All they could do is ruin it. That's all they could do, because there's nothing that they could actually do that would live up to my expectations.
It's a finished story. I mean, yeah.
I think The Last of Us and BioShock Infinite to an extent seems to have had this problem with trying to do single player DLC without affecting.
I don't think we'll get
main
Bioshock
storyline.
Infinite 2 because Irrational have a lot of power, but I have an awful feeling
No, I mean,
that we'll get Last of Us
Irrational
2.
have said that they're done with Bioshock now, which means, but they've also said it's somebody else is going to do it. Pretty much, they pretty much said like we're not going to do
That's
any
fine.
more
I'll take
Bioshock
on the
games.
Bioshock
somebody else
game
do
by
it.
someone else.
I'm done with that.
Really?
Yeah, I
Take
mean,
another
like,
one. I like Bioshock 2. It's good.
System Shock 2 is still better than all the Bioshock games. As I remember, every time I play System Shock 2, I think, yeah. Like, at the time, I didn't get that because I played Bioshock and I really liked it. And I still like Bioshock a lot. I love the art style. I love the direction with that stuff. It's awesome. The atmosphere is brilliant. But a lot of people who were gamer friends of mine at the time said, yeah, but it's bollocks. It's just like System Shock 2, but not as good. And I was like, oh, really? Whatever, dude. And then I actually started playing System Shock 2. And I keep getting bullied. People saying, do more System Shock 2, let's play. I will do that. I will carry on at some point. But when I start playing System Shock 2, it's just a better game. It's like
I haven't played it, so I can't comment. But I do like all the Bioshock games.
But honestly, like System Shock...
Is that because you've just lost confidence that they'll make a Bioshock game that good? Or surely you want them to keep striving towards that?
I just feel like it's an era thing. I don't think they will, because the thing about Bioshock is it's become such a big franchise now that it has to please
They don't want to
people.
change it too much.
It's like I was talking to somebody about this the other day. My problem with Bioshock is it's just like, you know what, like Ken Levine, like they're off, like you can't. He sort of sits around going,
I like Ken Levine. What's wrong with Ken
I do
Levine?
as well, but it's like his logic is flawed, right? He goes, well, you know, Bioshock, we've got to fill it with all the shooty stuff because it's a big game, it's a big franchise. You know, it's like he basically just goes, well, we've got to sell millions of copies if we want to make it really expensive. We want to make a really expensive game, which means we have to sell loads of copies, and we want to sell loads of copies. We've got to like. And it's like he kind of shrugs off the whole being, well, of course we have to compromise the structure of our game. It's like as if that's okay. And it's like, well, no, why don't you make a slightly cheaper game or something? I don't know. It just annoys me that he automatically...
Politics.
Well, and that's the thing. But it's fine. But he basically just goes, look, it's a reality of the business. And I'm like, I get that. But he sort of just shrugs off any, like, whatever.
Well, maybe that's what they'll do next. Maybe their new project's going to be all...
I'd love it if they did.
The team's too big, though, now, isn't it?
You never know.
Downscale.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
know.
There's stuff about System Shock 2 that's aged badly, and the inventory system and the key bindings and all that are really ill. But it's just the fact that it was a game that really, really punished you. Like, it's a game in which, like, you get a pistol and you can't use it very well at all, and you don't find much ammo. Which means when you're like shooting it, when you fire, you panic and you fire off like a clip, and you kill one enemy with a clip, and then immediately like, oh god, I'm safe. But then you only think that for a split second before you go, oh god, I literally just used half of my ammo.
Yeah.
Because I was so scared. And, you know, having the bravery to do that and having the bravery to create a game where you literally, in System Shock 2, I get the impression if you play it badly, you'll get to a point where you think, I can't do this. I have to start the whole game again because I've fucked it up. And
that is a lot more niche than obviously Bioshock.
That is niche.
But I understand why they went in the other direction.
I get that as well, but also I think that it gives you a gameplay experience which just you don't get. Like,
well, that's true too.
You don't get any intensity when you're fighting because you're never worried about anything. Especially in Bioshock when they made the whole... you come back to life, you know. I mean, it kind of feels that if you're not worried about ammo, you're not worried about dying, it's very easy. And this is the way I found myself playing in Bioshock Infinite, to just be like, just point the gun at the things, shoot the things.
Yeah.
I think games are...
did like
there are.
It's hard to feel engaged with.
That's becoming more popular in different games now. A lot of like roguelikes are capitalizing on that kind of feeling. But yeah, the Bioshock has drifted away from it, of course.
Yeah, I get that. I just don't think it will ever go back to being that again.
Yeah,
that's fine.
We will get Last of Us 2.
Oh yeah,
If I had to put my money on it, I'd say we would get one. I don't want one, but I bet we do.
The problem with Last of Us 2, right, is all the enemy
Damn
designs
successful.
were perfect. The Last of Us was so perfect in terms of like making sure you never got bored of those things.
Game.
If they made Last of Us 2, they'd end up doing a Gears of War thing of being like, oh, here's a new type of armored.
Nothing wrong with Gears of War 2, man. It's a fantastic, wonderful experience.
Inventing new types of locust, you know, and it's like, look, here's a fat locust with a different gun.
They've got some like what? Yeah, what was the
Gears of War? Man, I love Gears of War.
Gears of War got away with it because it was the idea that they were this underground race.
Gears of War,
we've just never seen these before.
Yeah. Gears of War is brilliant.
Yeah, all these ones. Oh, we haven't seen these ones before, but now they're everywhere.
Yeah,
apart from Judgment, which was disappointing, those three, I love Gears of War.
You just like the big necks.
I'd love everything about those first. Love them.
Do you love the men?
Yeah, why not? Anyway, we don't talk about that.
It's fine. You can admit that. That's all fine. Anyway, that's it for the podcast. Thank you very much for listening. And yeah, you should check out our podcast competition for Member of the Month. We're doing a Pokemon-based thing where you have to draw a Pokemon in MS Paint. It's bollocks. But
someone made a GIF this morning, including Boris Johnson. So that, I mean,
you've got to see that. Apparently.
Yeah, it's. I just struggle not to pick that one immediately.
Well, you know,
it's got Boris Johnson in it.
People should.
Did we ever announce the competition winner for the Kickstarter?
Yes, we did. Dave.
Oh, we did.
Yeah.
Was
I wasn't here. I was not involved in this.
It was the Dave board
You
game.
weren't. You're just going to have it in the background.
What one? Do we remember what one this was?
It's the 80-page document.
16 page.
Oh, right. Well done to you.
And we like the people want to buy you about thousands of cheese strings as well.
Yeah,
I would accept that.
Oh,
good.
No. Oh, we did this last week.
We've done this. Indeed, I'm with you on this one, Simon. Thanks very much for listening, guys.
No problem.
Simon Miller, not you, Chris.
Cheers.
And we've had Chris Bratt, a cheeky little monkey, and we've Dave Scammell.
It's been a blast, internet friends.
Boom.
Internet friends.
Goodbye.
Oh, yeah.